Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I am your host, Mark Hill, and we have something unique this time. We are going with a three-man booth, and on the three-man booth, I have Mitch Grawl, who is back from playing down in Florida and cuddling up with Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, and we have our co-host from last week, Dean Chambers, on as well. How's it going, gentlemen?
Good. Great. Glad to be back.
All right. Well, glad to be back. You were down in Disneyland, man, or you should have had some fun down there.
Hey, I can't be without PNFL for more than a couple of days, so glad to be back.
Glad to be back. Okay. Well, we like having you back. So, Dean, how are you doing today?
Good.
Good. Great. So, we are... couple of things we're going to go through today. We are going to go through the week 4 games, and we're also going to do the status of the league at the end of the first quarter, or making that first quarter turn throughout the first 4 weeks, looking at which teams are doing great, which ones aren't doing as well as we thought, and just a general idea. And then, as usual, we're going to go through the games for week 5. So, with all of that being said, let's go ahead and kick off the games that we completed this past week, starting off with Detroit going to visit New Orleans. And New Orleans, I don't know if you want to call it a shocker or not, but they ended up winning that game 23-15. So we're going to start off with Dean. What did you see on this game, and what's your opinion of the gameplay?
I think the Saints played pretty well, and if I remember right, I think I had picked the Saints for that. Although I'm not sure. Maybe I picked Detroit. But I think Detroit struggled a bit in that game, if I remember right.
Yeah, they struggled a little bit. They had 268 total yards, 68 net yards on the rushing yards, and for passing they had 200 compared to New Orleans with 301 in the air, and they had 72 on the ground.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I see this, I was not surprised at all, Mark. That New Orleans has been playing pretty well all year, and Detroit had just come off a bad loss to Green Bay the week before, and I think had unloaded a lot of players into the free agent pool right before that. So not shocked, but I will say that I'll probably talk about New Orleans when we talk about those first quarter grades.
Yes, definitely. Go ahead, Dean.
I saw that Motui promoted his entire practice squad. The other thing I noticed, he had 2 different quarterbacks playing. Was there an injury, or what happened there?
I do believe that there was an injury. I'm not sure which quarter it was in, but I do believe it was like maybe in the second or third quarter. And then he came out, and I believe he also ended up going back in. I think he was.
Well, that other quarterback had 9 completions of 28 attempts, so that's a very low completion percentage. That's a big factor in the game right there.
Yes, I agree. So, wrapping up on that.
Barrieri's going to be out for 2 more weeks, it looks like. Holton Ahlers is, he's a backup for a reason. So, there you go.
There you go. But hey, that's who he has right now, so he is stuck with him at this time. So, moving on to the next game, Washington went over to Minnesota, and a low-scoring game, but Washington ended up taking that game 13-10. So, Mitch, I'm gonna have you take the lead on this one.
Yeah, not a surprise to see a low-scoring game between Jerry and Barney, 2 defensive-minded coaches. But I think the thing that surprises me the most from this game is more of Minnesota still trying to find their way on the offensive side. Granted, Jerry defenses are always tough, but Minnesota has really struggled to kind of get a rhythm going on offense. And it showed up again this week. Not be able to really sustain much of anything or passing or on the ground. So that's a few of my thoughts from this game.
Dean?
Yeah. On the flip side, I think when I look at the stats, Washington kind of underperformed in offense. I mean, I'm sure Minnesota's defense is very tough, but I was expecting Washington to cover the spread in this game, and they did not do that. And their stats on offense looked pretty good, but they just didn't score a whole lot. So I think they were moving the ball effectively, but just not always translating. That wasn't always translating into scores. So you get this low-scoring, defensive-oriented game.
Yeah, the yards were the passing, the total yards were there, but again, like I said, low-scoring game. I think I predicted Washington to win on that one, but I thought it was going to be a much higher scoring game than that. So, right. as we said earlier, Minnesota's struggles are continuing. So, back to the drawing board. So, next game on the list, we have Atlanta going to LA, and LA definitely found something because they ended up taking that game 27-15. I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one, Mitch, and then then we will interview the coach.
No, well, as I mentioned in the pre-show, I think the best thing that happened for Los Angeles is Herbert getting injured, because Kaiser, who led the Chargers to the AFC Championship last year, came off the bench, one player of the game, completed 69% of his passes, really helped keep. Really kind of helped save the season a little bit. Los Angeles, that was almost a must-win for them in that tough AFC West division. So hats off to Steve and the team.
Yes, indeed. Now for the coach himself, what happened, Dean?
Well, I was wanting to have balanced offense in this game, and it was balanced. The passing didn't do very well, and the running wasn't as good as it should have been either. So, yeah, there was balance. It just wasn't. It just didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, we do run into that from time to time. I from what I look at, just looking at the box or the stats, LA had 80 yards rushing, so they're still having problems in that rushing game. Well, it's okay. With 271 yards in the air, and Atlanta holding down at 179. So I'm thinking they've been kind of keeping some notes on you and then going over their last couple of losses, trying to find out where they can plug those holes up where they've been leaking lately. So clearly they was able to find it and actually put some points on the board. So
yeah, and I noticed when your offense isn't moving the ball very well and holding much time in possession or scoring many points, your defense is on the field more, and then your defense will give up a lot more points than it might otherwise do.
True. I mean, it was pretty much even, though it was the time of possession was even for both of you guys.
Right, but you kind of ends up making it look like your team is kind of falling apart on both sides of the ball. So your team gives up more points than you want to, and your offense doesn't score enough points. I think it really can. Your offense has to be effective to a certain degree to kind of help the defense.
True. I agree. Next game on the docket is New York at Jacksonville, and the Giants happen to take that one away 30-14. I'm gonna let you start on this one, Dean.
Well, I think it was clear here that Sean had a pretty solid game plan and profile put in place, and he did some good scouting of Jacksonville, and he was pretty effective on both sides of the ball. He held Jacksonville to 14 points, and his offense came up with 30, and just overall solid effort, just like his win last week. So he started off the season 0-2, and now he's won 2 in a row and pulled to an even 500 record.
Okay, Mitch, do you agree? You have something you want to add to that?
Well, I would say that 30 points, definitely a little bit more what you expect out of a Giants team. On the offensive side, especially passing, not the most efficient game for Daniel Jones, but hey, a win's a win, right? 41% completion percentage, but he did get 2 touchdowns out of that and a victory. I think those 2 interceptions for Jacksonville, Mason Rudolph kind of trying to press a little bit, was forced into some interceptions, made a big impact in this game.
Yes, I do agree with that. It's definitely, excuse me. Jones is definitely starting to put the numbers up again. From what I can see, 201 yards out there. Time possession slightly in New York's advantage. I thought the score was going to be much closer than this. But hey, it's a win. So, it's well, let me see here. New York, they're climbing out. They're at an even 2-2. So, I think they're starting to get themselves together. Jacksonville is now at 1-3, so they definitely have some work to do because this is not the Jacksonville that was the way they was playing last season. So,
and let me add one more about Mason Rudolph. You know what status he also has?
No, what's that?
One of the several former quarterbacks in Kansas City before Justin Fields was drafted.
So new opportunity with a different team, and he's doing a Matt Ryan, I guess, from the NFL. New team.
Just players, he has good skill base, but doesn't perform up to them.
I don't know if that's breaking news. I think half the quarterbacks in the league were once on Kansas City at some point.
It's news.
Wow. So basically you just shuffling people all over the place now.
Until I found someone.
I think he's sticking to his quarterback now, though, Mark.
Okay, so he's sticking this one. He's happy with that one. Okay, we'll go with that. So, next game, Chicago at Indianapolis. Chicago ended up taking that game 38-14. I'm gonna let Mitch start off on this one.
All right, I will just start off by saying this: Coach Hoover, please start Kyle Allen over Jordan Love. Please. I think I've said this now 3 weeks I've been on the show here this year.
Please 3 weeks, and this is week 4.
Yeah, and so I think that won't fix everything, but I think Kyle Allen is a better option right now. Love will be in a couple of seasons, but I would say start Kyle Allen today. But after that, I mean, Chicago, right? Big game for Sam Darnold. I don't think it's a surprise that Chicago won, but I keep believing in Indianapolis that they're going to kind of get some things in order here and give a push for a wild card. But it's going to be tough now at 0-4. So, we'll see.
Okay, Dean.
Well, as usual, the offense was very effective. 400 yards of passing and 4 touchdowns. I mean, how often does a team put up those kinds of numbers and lose the game? Not very often.
This is true. Not that often at all.
Well, actually, I do know a team that happened to, and that was when the Chargers played Seattle last week. I think Herbert threw for 393 in a loss. But hey, what am I talking about?
Yeah, but Seattle put some yards. We were in the 300s as well. I mean, this here is what was the passing yards? 393 to 192. I was in the threes right along with him, so it was not this lopsided. Seattle still won the game, but it wasn't that lopsided in the passing.
167 yards of passing. That doesn't get it done unless you do a lot of rushing.
Exactly. And they didn't do it. They only rushed it 21 times for 71 yards. So that's not going to cut it either. So again, hopefully I think he may look at it again after week 4. He's going to have to make some changes behind center and hopefully look at Allen and see if he can improve his fortune. So, all right, next game. Green Bay playing against San Francisco, and San Francisco just rolled 44-3. Dean, what do you got on that?
This completely surprised me. I believe I picked Green Bay to win. I thought Green Bay was looking pretty strong the first 3 weeks. I thought Charlie's team, the 49ers, was looking a bit suspect, and This just completely is like the exact opposite of what I expected. I didn't expect Green Bay to win 44-3, but I didn't expect them to lose by that kind of game either. And this was a real surprise for me when I watched it.
Yeah, Mitch, go ahead, and then I want to add something to it. Well, go ahead, Mitch.
Well, I think Dak Prescott, probably going to need a lot of massage after this, since he led the team in rushing with 47 yards for Green Bay, and took a lot of hits. Not a lot of sacks, but got a lot of hits. And yeah, I think Green Bay has seen better performances.
Yeah, I have to agree with that as well. I mean, San Francisco just smashed. I mean, 474 in the total, 307 in the air, 167 on the ground. Green Bay just didn't have the answers. They didn't have the answer against the run. They didn't have the answer against the pass. And that just, you're not going to win. You got to be able to at least try to stop one of the two. He didn't stop either one of them. So it was just a roll. Next game, I think we're finished with that one. Next game, Anaheim at New England, and Anaheim won that game 35-14. I'm going to let Dean take this one first.
Yeah, this one was kind of surprising, too. It's almost as if New England didn't even show up. I expected New England to be better, and I thought they were moving in the right direction in the last couple of weeks, getting a little bit better each week. And Anaheim, that I didn't expect a whole lot from, actually played fairly well. I mean, look at their passing numbers. They started Dobbs at quarterback and completed 33 passes out of 44 attempts. That's probably one of his best performances. And he didn't fumble a lot either. And New England just underperformed, at least compared to what I expected.
I agree with that.
It's surprising for me.
Yep. Mitch?
Yeah, I would say, speaking of Dobbs, another former Kansas City or a former Dean quarterback there on another team. But, yeah, I would say this was the good Anaheim offense. It seems as if every other week, we have the good Anaheim offense, and then we have the bad Anaheim offense. And so Anaheim, even last year when they were Carolina, tended to have some good offensive play. And so it was good to see that that's back. Now, they've got to be consistent and see if they can keep that rolling.
Yep, I agree. Well, the question is going to be for Anaheim we'll talk about it later on in the show, but it's going to be like, okay, which one's going to show up next week? I think I predicted New England on this one as well. I don't know what's going on over in New England. I have no idea. I don't know. Just you get kind of stumped right there and just hope that next week they can turn it around. So, next game. Actually, you know what? We're going to jump past this one. We're going to go to Denver against the Jets. And I think, as everyone had guessed, the Jets ended up taking that game 38-24. I will let Dean start on this one.
Well, we discussed it last week, and we both agreed that the Jets, as good as they are, and Denver, as tough as they are with those game plans and profiles that Jerry put together, that the Jets were not going to cover the spread. And you and I were talking like an 8 to 10 point win. Remember, the spread was 14.5.
Yep, I remember that at 14.
You see that 14-point margin right there.
Yep.
And as I watched that game, Denver would score, and the Jets would be below the spread. And I'm thinking, are the Jets going to score and cover that spread? And is Denver going to score again? And just, I think near the end, the Jets, if I remember, I scored a field goal, which if they had scored a touchdown, they would have covered the spread. But the field goal preserved our prediction that we both agreed on last week, that the Jets would win but not cover the spread.
Yep, I agree. And Mitch, what did you, before I add to that, Mitch, what do you have to say about that game?
Yeah. No, Jets continue to be balanced on offense. both strong on both kind of running and passing. The defense for New York is what surprised me. I thought that they'd be a little bit stronger, but I think Denver was helped by a couple of those interceptions that Carr threw, so that threw it off a little bit. So I won't hold that too much against New York.
Yeah, well, I mean, we knew that New York was going to win. It was just a matter about how big of the spread, but Denver put up their numbers. So, all right, now we're going to wrap this up with the rival game in house. Oakland tried to come in, and I do believe the possum procrastinator said that they were going to come in and raid Seattle, so Seattle was going to lose. But it wasn't a typical Oakland-Seattle game, but the Hawks did take it 19-17. I'm going to start this one off with Dean.
Yeah, this was definitely a close matchup. I'm looking at the first downs. I see Oakland has 13 and Seattle has 24. And I was expecting Seattle to win this game, although I believe the spread was not covered.
No.
It was what?
I think it was like 6.5, I believe, 6 or 7.
6.5, yeah.
Yep.
So it was a close, tough game, and I think you'd expect that between divisional rivals, and I'm guessing one of these teams will end up winning the division by the end of the season.
Yes, indeed. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this Cabbage Patch over to the Oakland coach so he can cuddle up next to it while he talks about his loss. Go ahead, Mitch.
Yeah. Well, I'm on to Jacksonville. And all I got to say is this: how in the world does a team, have 24 first downs to 13, have nearly 400 yards to 300 yards, hold it, have the ball for 20 minutes more than the other team? And should have lost the game and went for a block field goal in the last second. How in the world is that possible?
See, sometimes out in the wild, you have those animals, they get their prey and they kind of play with their food a little bit before they actually pounce on it and kill it. I think that was the problem with my offense and defense. They were playing with their food too long, and it almost caught it, and the prey almost got away. But at the end, I told, okay, guys, stop playing with your food. Finish them off. And that's when that block came in there. Done.
I got you. Well, I'll just go back to what Dean was saying earlier. If you don't have a good complementary football between your offense and defense, eventually your defense is gonna fold. And in this case here, my offense was absolutely atrocious, and I'm shocked that my defense being on the field 40 minutes. Actually, when you think about it, only ended up giving up 5 yards a play. I figured in the fourth quarter they'd have all been, gassed, but they played hard, and like I said, on to Jacksonville.
Yep. Go ahead, Dean.
Might be a testament to your defense as well that despite that time of possession gap, you only gave up the 19 points. I think in some of these games, if my defense was on the field 40 minutes, they would have given up at least 30 or 40 points.
I will say it was a good game, and yes, with that amount of possession, definitely to lose that one, I definitely would have been beating my head against the wall, finding out what the heck is going on. So I was actually surprised on the Oakland side because I figured, you guys are up in the upper tier as far as the rushing. So I was trying to defend and stop some of that. The passing game, I know the passing game is there, so it was just okay, guys, bend but don't break. Let's see how far we can kind of stretch this out. And I will say, normally your kicker would make that at the end. It was just a lucky break for us, and hey, it's a win. We'll take it, and moving on to the next week.
Yeah, well, I've already cut my kicker and signed a new one, just by the way. So.
What about that long snapper? The blocker came right up the middle, so that should be your long snapper.
Kicker.
Yeah.
Should have made it.
Okay.
Should have made it.
So as we are wrapping up week 4 games, hope you guys enjoyed that little segment. We're going to move on into the quarter turn in the league, the first 4 weeks. And I'm going to have these two coaches, one from the AFC side, one from the NFC side, and have them take, their breakdown of each team on, or overview of each team in the division. So I will start out with, I'll start out with Mitch on this one. And what are you seeing in the state of the league right now, as far as the AFC side and a little bit on the NFC side? Then I'll ask the same question to Dean, but it's going to be NFC first, then AFC. So go ahead and start, Mitch.
No, I mean, I think starting off these first 4 games, I think we continue to see, for the most part, some very competitive teams, some very competitive games. And even though some teams' records aren't where they would want to be, other than maybe a couple 3 games here or there, most games have been a 1-score difference, or at least 10 points or less. And so I think it's exciting stuff right now. And when I look at the AFC, I don't think anyone's surprised that the Jets are first place at 4-0. I will say in that AFC East division, the rest of the teams, I will say a little disappointed. And I think I said in our first show of the year that I thought that those 3 teams really would be battling each other for a wild card spot. But right now, they're combined 1-11. So still time to go. But then when you look at the AFC West, now especially with Los Angeles getting that must-win last week, that sleeping giant of Minnesota sitting there. They're not going to go away, and that Barney can roll off some wins when he gets things hot. I think we're going to end up having 3 playoff teams out of the West. It's just going to determine seeding. I think that West is going to be back and forth the whole year here. But right now, the 2 of us here, Seattle and Oakland, are tied. We've split our home and home, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. Now, Dean, what do you see on the NFC side?
Well, the first thing I see is the not surprising part that Washington and Chicago are leading the 2 divisions. Detroit is an interesting situation to look at, and if you think about last season, what Detroit did last season, did that maybe raise their expectations a little bit unrealistically high? Is it maybe realistic? Does it kind of make sense that Detroit might be 1-3, possibly 2-2 right now, but they are 1-3? And Atlanta and the Jets being 2-2, that probably makes sense. Both teams are trying to, move up to the next level and improve, but finding some struggles at times. The Saints are 3-1. They played well most weeks. Had that one loss. Green Bay, that's a situation where you don't know what you're getting from week to week. Some weeks they look very strong. The game against San Francisco was a real surprise. San Francisco is 1-3. Charlie may get that team winning again and be more competitive. It's hard to say, but it's a little more unpredictable as to where the wild cards are going to be. They possibly. I think it would be hard to say right now that the Saints probably won't win one of those wild card spots, and the other wild card spot is probably a competition between the Giants and the Falcons. I wanted to make one comment about the AFC, and that is, assuming that Denver doesn't sneak into the playoffs, I think Mitch is right. There will be 2 wild card spots, both teams, both from the AFC West, and it's just a matter of whether the Vikings or the Chargers will be that second wild card team. I think it's pretty clear that Oakland and Seattle are both going to win. And it's too early to say that someone has, quote, won a division. But if there's anyone that you would say is almost assured to win a division, the Jets are probably not going to be denied.
I agree with that one. I agree with that. So now, since Dean's already commented over on the AFC what he's seeing, so Mitch, I'm going to ask you from your view where you're at. What do you see on the NFC side?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Dean was talking about, I think it's a little bit more unpredictable out there. I mean, you've got those 2 4-0 teams leading division, but then the other teams, I mean, are all really kind of jumbled up together, right? I mean, there are no over teams in the NFC. Anaheim, if that offense can stay consistent, I think they can make some trouble. I mean, San Francisco 1-3, but they have a positive point differential similar to Minnesota. Those are 2 1-3 teams that, if they get on a roll, that they can easily get on a roll and make a difference. I think New Orleans is for real. I think they're going to continue to make hay out there, and then the NFC East. I mean, I wouldn't count that division being over by any means. I think I know that Atlanta and New York are a couple of games out of first, but I don't know. I don't know. I think there could be some surprises in that NFC East this year. I just don't know where it's going to come from, but I think there's going to be some surprises in that division.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So, I mean, I agree with both of you guys pretty much. I think there's nothing else that needs to be said on this because we got to keep the show moving. So, I do think that I would think Minnesota would have been a lot higher. I thought Jacksonville would have a couple more wins under their pocket. New England's definitely surprised me. Same with Detroit. I think pretty much that's what I see. There was teams I thought was going to be moving, that was going to be further up in there, but I will agree. Jets are going to win out. They're going to take the conference title again and win their division. West is going to be a battle royale. I already see it shaping up. As you said, we can't slack on Minnesota, and I think it's going to come down to the final weeks to figure out the seedings on that one. So. Definitely
that. Know what the Chargers are going to do. They could be competitive, or they could be not so competitive. So they may determine they're one of the wild card teams. I mean, if the Chargers falter, it could easily be Minnesota being the other wild card team.
Yep, definitely. Definitely, I agree. So, but all in all, I think the gameplay this season's been pretty good. There's been some blowouts that we've had, but I think a lot of the games have been competitive so far, and I think a lot of the spreads have been beaten out as well. So I think the quality is getting better this season. Would you agree, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it continues to be strong.
Yep. So I think that's where we're at on that. So. All right, so moving on to the last portion of the show this week, we're looking forward to the Week 5 games. So I'm going to go ahead and ask each one of you guys where the games that are coming up, and I guess we can go ahead and give our predictions and picks. So first game is the 49ers and the Falcons. I will let Mitch start off on this one.
Can I just say I have no clue? If San Francisco plays like they did last week, I think San Francisco can just about beat anybody. And so, who knows? I think Atlanta at home and the inconsistency of San Francisco. I'll lean with Dean this week and say Atlanta pulls out a close one, but. I don't say it's because of home field advantage.
Okay, so I'm going to give my prediction, and I'm going to let the coach give his prediction. So I'm in agreement with Mitch. I'm going to go with the Falcons. I think that the spread on that one's probably going to be 7.5 over the 49ers. Okay, Coach, what do you have to say about your team this week?
Well, I'm confident that the team is going to win, but, after last week, sometimes confidence doesn't play out on the field. Let's put it that way.
Yep, I agree. You don't want to get caught napping on that one. So, Next game on the list is the Packers and the Giants, and the Giants are predicted to win by 6.5 points. Dean.
I say the Giants are going to win this and cover the spread. Again, the Packers are kind of unpredictable. I mean, is it the good Packers or the weak Packers that are going to show up any given time? But I think the Giants are going to continue to be solid on both sides of the ball and win this game and cover the spread.
Okay, Mitch.
I believe that Dak Prescott was able to get, the trainers to get them patched up after that debacle last week. I think the Packers are going to pull it out.
Ooh.
Packers outright.
Okay.
Yeah, do you go into Giants Stadium or the walkout winners?
I am going to go with the Giants. I'm predicting the Giants to win by 3.5. I think Dean said it. We don't know what Packers team we're going to get. So I'm thinking that this is going to be the Packer team that's not going to put their best foot forward. So I'm going to give this one to the Giants. So next game, Rams and the Saints. Saints are predicted to win, or has a 7.5 point spread on that one. Dean.
Oh, definitely the Saints, and they're definitely going to cover the spread. They're the stronger of the two teams. Even if Anaheim shows up like they did last week, I think the Saints are just the stronger team and will still win this game, cover the spread.
Okay, Mitch.
I'm going New Orleans, but they're not going to cover. I think it's going to be a one-score game this week. So we'll see how it turns out. But I think Anaheim's going to show up, but I think New Orleans is going to pull it out at home.
Okay, I'm predicting the Saints on that one by 6. So next game, Jets against the Cardinals. And they are picking the Cardinals by 4.5 over the Jets. Mitch.
All right. Well, I don't know. It seems like we always think this is going to be a high-scoring game, and I don't know. I think you look at the balance the Jets have had. I have to say that the only reason this is a 4.5 point spread is a home field advantage. But I'm going to go Jets. I'm going to ride with the AFC team.
Okay, Dean.
No one prepares in game plans and scouts better than Thomas does. And I think this would be kind of a mid-scoring game. I see maybe a 27-21 or a 24-20 kind of game like that. But it's definitely a Jets win.
I agree. It's going to be a Jets win. I'll flip it. I'll give it to the Jets by 4.5. Next game, Colts and the Redskins. They are predicting the Redskins by 17.5. Dean.
I think the Redskins are actually going to win, and as they often don't do this time, I think they will cover the spread. I think the Redskins are just substantially the better team of the two and will cover that spread. That seems like a pretty large spread.
Yeah, that is a pretty high number. Mitch.
I will say this. Coach Hoover is going to listen to this video here or this podcast. He's going to start Kyle Allen. They're going to lose, but it's not going to be by 17.5.
So you are still advocating for Kyle Allen this week, huh?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna. Yep, he's gonna put Allen in, but the Redskins are still gonna win. I'm definitely gonna go with the 17.5 as well. So, next game, Patriots and Chargers. Chargers 10.5. Dean.
I think the Chargers will win and cover on this. I think the win last week will give Steve some confidence, and he'll put together a good game plan and profile this week. And I think Chargers will win this one.
Okay, Mitch.
Yeah, Chargers roll. I think it's going to be 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are going to win. Until I see something better from the Patriots. Sorry, Coach. I got to go with the Chargers by 10.5. That's what I'm predicting. Next game, Vikings and the Lions. They are predicting the Vikings by 3.5. Dean.
I think Detroit will show up and put up a good fight this week, and I think they have a chance of winning. I don't think James is going to look at this 1-3 record and think he's content to accept that.
Mm-hmm. Mitch, what do you think?
I think Minnesota continue. I think Detroit wins this one.
Okay.
I will say Minnesota's going to win this. Too many rookies on the Lions to beat of this Vikings team here. Even though the 1-3 teams, I think the Vikings win this. I would say by at least a touchdown.
I'm picking the Lions on this one. I think they're going to get off the schneid this week. There's no way that they're going to let this keep riding out. I think they're going to pull off the upset this week, and they're going to win. I'd say by 4.5. So I'll give it to my 4.5. Next game, Raiders against Jacksonville. They're predicting the Raiders by 9.5. I kind of flipped it the wrong way, but this time I will let the coach go first. Mitch, let's start with you.
Well, to win by 9.5, the way I played on offense, I have to win 10-0. I think I feel confident in the team rebounding this week. 9.5 might be a little steep on the road a little bit there, but I'm going to say the Raiders pull out the win.
Okay, Dean.
Yeah, I agree. The Raiders are going to win this and cover the spread. I think given the way Jacksonville's played this season, I think if you have an opponent that you play where you have a chance to look better, and definitely the offense for Oakland, I think, will look better in this game, and I think that spread will be covered.
Yep, I agree. I'm going to go with the Raiders also on that one. I'm going to go with the spread also of 9.5. So, and the last game of Week 5 is Seattle taking on the Broncos, and looky here, they are giving Seattle 6.5 on the spread. Dean.
I think this is going to be a very close game because of how good Denver is with those game plans and profiles that Jerry put together, and this may be a win by Seattle, but it might look like your game last week. I think the spread will not be covered.
Okay, Mitch.
Yeah, I think you definitely going to need to prepare for this game. It's not your ordinary CPU game by any means. But yeah, I think you pull it out. But I'm thinking it's going to be more, probably 5 points or less on there.
Yeah, I'll predict Seattle, but I'm gonna give it maybe 5.5. I know that's probably low balling myself, but I think that the Broncos are sitting there as a CPU team, and they're sitting at 2-2. So
Well, think about this too. Now, that Denver team, Mitch Trubisky actually looks like a superstar in the PNFL. They're ranked 4th in passing offense there, and they're ranked 4th in rushing offense. So that defense going to show up for Seattle this week.
Yep.
Mark, this is where you're supposed to pull the Lou Holtz routine and tell us how great Denver is.
Oh yeah, Denver is an awesome team. They're a great team. We have to really buckle down and prepare to go against that team. Because they can definitely sneak a win in there, and just because they're a CPU ran team does not mean that they're just going to roll over and play possum.
Yeah.
There's been a couple teams that have already done that, so I'm fully aware of it.
Well, I think it's actually one team, maybe Minnesota twice, right?
Do I now?
I think it's one team. They beat Minnesota twice, right?
I do believe that they did beat Minnesota twice, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see.
It will be.
That is correct.
Yep.
It will be
correct.
Yep. Beat them twice.
Yeah.
Maybe not this week, but Denver will beat other teams.
Yep. Definitely. So, ran a little bit long. We're just trying this new format out here, guys. I think overall we did pretty well on this. What do you guys have to say about the new format, and anything you want to do to wrap this up? Dean?
I think it's good.
Yeah, let's get it.
Okay.